Or program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well. Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well. Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well. Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Bi-Weekly
Meeting of the
Report.
Facilities Advisory Committee. I guess we'll start off with the roll call for attendance. And Amanda, can you make yourself heard on your own, or do I need to do anything?
I just did.
Okay, excellent.
Hello.
Hi. Long time no see.
No, sorry, missed you
No,
guys.
that's
Okay.
okay.
Lighting is terrible. I've had the video off while I'm waiting.
Well,
Can I leave the video off though once we've
I think
sort of
so.
filled in?
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do a quick roll call. Mark Layton,
Mark Layton here.
Peter,
Here. Peter Lennon.
Rob,
Here.
Amanda,
Here remotely.
here remotely, okay. And Chris Weeks, I'm here as well. So first order of business is the meeting minutes from our bonanza of our two meetings from mid to late August, 7/19 and 7/24. Has everybody had a chance to read those? And did anyone have any comments on either of those minutes?
I have a couple of kind of corrections. I'm not sure. I got lost with the pronouns about who was we and who was they.
Okay,
So I got a bunch of changes like that. So why don't I withhold until the other members come up with anything?
sure. And I think at those two meetings, we were all there. Amanda was the only one missing, I think. Okay, Rob, did you have any,
Did not.
none?
No comments.
No comments. I didn't have any comments either. So Peter, the floor is yours.
Great. On the August 19, page 3,
I'll try to take notes or, well, okay, go ahead.
on the second paragraph under the motion. Sorry, the second paragraph under the motion, the last sentence that begins, should they instead be thinking about an operational analysis? When we discussed this, frankly, it was us. So the they is us, and so it should be we instead of they.
Okay. As opposed to DPW, you mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's not DPW, yes, right.
Okay.
And then, following the same process, they've established, meaning we've established, because Public Works didn't establish anything, process-wise or any other way.
Okay.
And then on the back page, the first line where blurb is, I might have said blurb, but just so that people know what I meant, I wanted to substitute project description as opposed to blurb in that sentence. And then is saying they've got a concept about what they want to do. This time it is DPW. So it's either DPW has a concept about what they want to do. And then in fifth fifth line in that next paragraph, fifth line from the bottom, starts with the word Lennon, said they don't know what the architect looked at. It's actually we don't know what the architect looked at. And the next sentence, they shouldn't buy into what the department says it needs. It's we shouldn't buy into what the department says it needs without an independent perspective. So those were the only changes on that set of minutes.
Okay. So before you get on to the next one, I'll just say for our secretary's benefit then, I've got some descriptions that I'll send to her regarding those changes, or do you have anything you want to send to her?
I mean, I can scan in the notes.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
I have a technical question about, my understanding is the notes are a transcription, or are they a paraphrasing, or?
It's not completely transcribed, or else we'd have 10 pages of minutes every meeting.
You're talking about I think Joanna does your minutes, right?
Joanna
Right.
Bartel, yep.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that if other notes are a literal versus a paraphrased,
Oh, I see what you're
so are we
saying.
changing something that actually was said in the thing? Are we adding clarity to it? So I just want to make sure that we're adding clarity to it and we're not changing what was said during the meeting, I guess is my only comment. And
Good point, and from what I've heard, it sounds like it's just
You're not suggesting I'm changing meaning, are you?
No, exactly. No.
Good.
So I'm just want to make sure that that's what we're not doing, is that we're not changing meeting minutes, and it sounds like this as if these are again excerpts taken out, and then
Yep.
I think it makes sense to clarify the theys and the thes or the people that we're talking about and what the intent is.
Good. Okay, now you're on to the,
On the August 24 minutes on the first page,
Wait.
in the second to last paragraph from the bottom, so it's the long one, Mr. Lennon said he should restrict his comments to Rains Farm, excuse me, the FCA, the town offices, and I understand why Joanna might have thought this, but instead of geophysical survey, it's actually a geotechnical evaluation,
Yep.
which even from a layman like me, know is really different. Then, 3 lines down from there, Mr. Lennon said the planning board should hear the kind of questions they're asking, and then they get the answers. They can share the information with the BRC. The planning board's not in that loop. It's when we get the answers, we can share that information with the BRC. I'm quite confident that I wouldn't have used they when I meant us.
okay,
And then in the next sentence, they should also sit down with Mr. Dean and Board Chair Nico Papakonstantis. It's we should also sit down and see how we can get answers, excuse me, to our questions this year, because I don't think the planning board has asked. And then in the next line, Mr. Lennon asked who, it's actually whom they sent the Rains Farms letter to. Mr. Lennon, then in the next sentence, Mr. Lennon said, instead of we, it's we want to reference it in the planning board, in the information for the planning board. And then Mr. Weeks will also send a letter with questions about the DPW garage and the town office's geotechnical survey, which to the planning board. So it was 2 sets of questions, and only one is referenced in the minutes. So after the DPW garage on the back page, it's an insertion of and the town office's geotechnical survey. Evaluation, sorry, made a mistake myself. Evaluation, not survey. And then in the next paragraph, Mr. Lennon said he would like to add their support of the Rains Farm project to the letter to the planning board. I don't know whether I said that, or Mark said it, but it's our support. It's not their support, just to make sure everybody understands it. We were the ones supporting the Rains Farm project in our letter, and we decided to make a reference to that. Okay, then in the third paragraph in the next section, under the motion, Mr. Lennon said regarding the fuel island, we allow the DPW to break that out from the rest. So the question was, should they go ahead with the fuel island, or is that something we're comfortable with, or should it fit into their whole concept about whatever that whole concept is? So it's, should we allow DPW to break that out from the rest of the complex work, or do we recommend, not they, that the town adopt the process used for the public safety complex? And then the sentence that starts, they shouldn't replace it. I'm pretty comfortable, but Mark, these are your words. They shouldn't replace it without having a larger picture view. I assume it meant the fuel island or the garage. I didn't know which one, so.
This is in that last paragraph, Peter?
Yeah, they shouldn't replace it. I didn't know.
The middle of the paragraph.
Right.
Yeah, so this week I'm going back just to see read it in context, but this week on the phone should be allowed. I don't think the complex of Exeter as a whole is blatant, so they should be making. Said they may be looking at it, but wanting to share it.
It appears that most of the discussions really were centered around, obviously, the fuel island.
Right,
Yeah.
right, but I didn't want to assume.
Nope.
Yeah, no, I think, yes, I agree that it should be the fuel island, because
Okay.
we were talking about
Yeah,
placement of that in context of the larger view, yeah.
so it becomes a fuel island. Those are the only changes.
All right, so that seems extensive enough where I don't know if we can vote on that. Anybody else have thoughts on that? Should we send it back for another pass with Joanna and then review and approve at the next meeting? Or are you comfortable moving forward with this?
I mean, what is the,
I'm comfortable making a motion that we accept the changes as identified in the,
Okay,
same?
Oh, I'm sorry, comfortable.
okay, well, let's, a second on the motion then?
Second?
Okay, how do you vote, Rob?
I vote aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Amanda?
She wasn't present, so I'm not sure.
I think she can vote as long as we have a quorum, is that right?
Typically, if you weren't there, you would.
You don't vote on them if you're.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
I guess I don't
All right.
know the technical, but I guess I would say past practice is usually.
Yeah.
yeah, I would vote against just because there does seem to be enough ambiguity in there. I'd like to see the final draft, but the motion does pass 3-1. So I like using that gavel, that's fun.
All right. You do it so well.
Yeah. So,
I'll send the changes
okay, thank you, Peter.
to Joanna.
So next, old business. Our first item up is the milestone review. We don't have that to be able to show everyone. I don't know if you guys can see it.
I have an old version.
What's upcoming is, so there was the planning board meeting on the CIP, the August 26th, and we'll get to that in a minute. Mark, were you able to attend that meeting, or?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I was a few minutes late, just so apologies to everybody, because I thought the meeting started at 7 o'clock, it actually started at 6:30. So I got to the meeting around 6:45, 6:50, I think it was, so, but, there wasn't any questions. Dave Sharples did introduce me so that they knew that I was present.
Okay.
And, sorry. And so, yeah, it was well-received. I think several had made comments about they appreciated our work and the comments and the questions. But there was no direct questions, and that was it.
So that was relative to the letters of recommendation that we sent them. Were there any comments on the CIP item for the facility condition assessment? Did that come up at all?
No.
Okay.
Dave, before I got there, had talked about it, or he read the letter. So he read our letter to the planning board, and
And
I don't
the
recall.
FCA was in there. I
The
just
rest, yeah, the
didn't-
FCA, we justified the FCA there. I don't recall any, or aware of any questions or comments before I got there, or while I was there was none.
Did you
All
happen to-
supported, I mean, they've supported the CIP as presented.
Okay, I was going to ask you
Yeah.
that too. Did they?
Yep, they voted to accept or approve, or however they do that. But, I mean, it was literally, I think, within 30 minutes, they were done with the CIP.
Okay. The next item I have a couple line items due by the end of September, it looks like. The first one is, so the facility condition assessment, confirm proposed operation with DPW, request for proposal with town manager, and present to BRC and select board, and add as a CIP item. So we have it as a CIP item. I have not yet spoken with Jen Perry about proposed operation, so that'll be on my list to do before the next meeting. And I don't know if any of you guys know whether the RFP has gone anywhere at this point, or I don't know if Melissa knows.
You're talking about for the facility assessment?
Yeah.
Public safety, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think it is going to go out until it gets approved, right?
I didn't know, you guys had kind of mentioned to Dave to try to get it posted to get some responses. I thought that was supposed to happen relatively soon. No,
I can look and see if it's posted online, but I don't.
with the understanding that we don't have funding yet, so.
Yeah, I know we talked about it, but I don't know if we ever came, I thought he was going to talk to Russ about that procedurally, about whether that was possible, or the town would want to do that, I guess. So I don't recall coming up with those, saying yes or no. Do you, Rob?
I don't remember saying that it was going to be definitively posted as of yet.
Yeah.
I thought, Rob, you were recommending that we post it, soon. Is that accurate?
It is accurate. It's what's on the RFP was it was supposed to go out next week.
Oh, okay.
I believe the 13th, the week of the 13th, and then the delivery date for the final review would have been December.
I mean, I agree that it should go out that's what we had recommended. But, if Melissa can maybe talk with Dave and see if it can, I think that's where we left it, was he was going to return and talk to Russ, because Russ was on vacation or something like that at that time.
As far as presenting to BRC and select, I'm sorry.
You use the term operation. You said discuss operation with
Yep.
Jen. I don't, what operation you are discussing?
So the assessment system, it's going to be like some
Oh, I see.
software package, and it's going to need
Okay.
the annual maintenance
Sorry.
and such.
Misunderstood.
Okay.
Got it.
And then, yeah, it might live there. We don't know. It might live within DPW, and they might be the one to administer it. I'm not sure, but I do need to talk to her about that. As far as presenting to BRC and select board,
Chris,
yeah.
Melissa had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to let you know Jen's on vacation until next week.
Oh, okay,
I
thank
just
you.
didn't want you to reach out.
All right.
and feel like she hadn't got back to you, sorry.
Okay, that sounds good, thank you. Presenting to BRC and Select Board. We have that by September 30th. I'm not sure when the best times would be to do something like that. And I guess before that, I need to talk to DPW.
And indeed, I thought you said that you were going to we were going to reach out to the Budget Committee as well.
Yep, that's the BRC, has to present to.
No, in other words, talk to them before
Oh, okay,
we
like in a smaller venue?
submitted it. I might have misunderstood that.
I think we talked about having potentially a small committee, small group of people, I won't say committee, a small group to review it prior to the full group hearing about it. So I think that's what we had discussed.
Yeah, so we haven't done anything with that. I think you're right, Peter and Rob. I think we had talked about just having a small non-quorum meeting to initiate the discussion with the BRC.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the goal would be to hopefully convince them that it's worthy of their support, the leadership of the BRC, that it's worthy of their support. And so that when we go ahead and make a presentation, whether it's through a letter or actually a verbal presentation, that it's received with a somewhat positive response. So it was just the idea of doing a little bit of spade work to make sure they understood exactly what it is we were looking for, why we think it's important, and how it can help us and the town, but also how it can help them.
So I have a good question here. I get a little squeezy about this. I understand the nuance of bringing it to a select group of people within the BRC, but there's a certain lack of transparency there, and it's not really being presented to the whole group. It's being presented to a selected group of people to discuss it. So, is there another method to doing this versus not having a public meeting or not having it be upfront, I guess is how I would put it?
I understand what you're saying, Rob. I'm not quite certain, though, that we're wandering into non-transparent territory, if you will. I mean, we're having an informal discussion with some members of the Budget Recommendations Committee who happen to be in the leadership. It's not a quorum of us, it's not a quorum of them, but in no way, shape, or form will it substitute for us making a public presentation of why we think it's important to the entire committee. So the entire Budget Recommendations Committee is going to hear basically the same discussion at a later date, and that would presumably be a public meeting. Or they would all get the letter that we would write urging that the project be funded, and that public letter would be obviously public. So I don't know, I'm not quite certain that an informal meeting, an informal discussion is in this case an attempt to end run.
Well, what would be the topics of discussion too? Like, what are we trying to find out?
Well, I mean,
generally, you
guys want to go
Can I make a
first, or-
suggestion?
Yeah.
You can tell me whether or not. So the way the BRC works, they all have subcommittees, right? Everybody gets assigned. So you can take this or leave it. You could put a request to the chair that, we don't typically have boards and committees looking for budget items. Maybe they can assign you someone, and it's more as someone that would review it as a subcommittee, because then you're following the process that it does for each of the organizations. Then that's your time to explain it to the subcommittee or the person running. You've been on BRC, so that's their time to informally meet with representatives from your organization, and then they help you at the public meeting, and then that would be following the process, unless that's not what you're trying to do.
No, in fact, of the perhaps two, I don't know whether a third one would even be there, but my initial concept was that Bob Kelly is the chair and the Water and Sewer Subcommittee chair, and Corey Stevens as the general DPW chair would be the two individuals we would sit with. And the reason for that is that I guess, having been on the budget committee recently, although it's been 4 years, but watching Bob Kelly, God love him, over the years, I just think it would be helpful that he and the chair of the subcommittee into which this thing would fit. And if it's not DPW, then I don't care which subcommittee it is. It might be general government, it might be who knows where. That subcommittee chair, they would be the two people. Now, if it's either redundant or out of scope or inappropriate to have Bob, then fine. Whoever the subcommittee chair is, whether it's Corey or somebody else, would be fine. But that was my concept about who was going to be in this group.
The way I take Rob's comment, and tell me if I'm wrong, is just to go through the process and let them decide who's assigned to it, so that Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it also could be something as simple as where we invite them to our meeting
No, well,
to have the discussion. So the reality is that, I mean, the truth is where we're doing is we're deciding to have a meeting about a topic in which it's a non-public meeting. I mean, that's ultimately what the goal is, and so I'm bringing it up because I feel like that I'm compelled to bring it up, and so it is.
let me again make the distinction between a discussion and a meeting. Let me also say that inviting the Budget Recommendations Committee to come to one of our meetings is unlikely to work unless we lean on somebody from the Budget Recommendations Committee to come as the designated representative of the Budget Recommendations Committee. Just laying out an invitation is not going to ensure their presence at our meetings.
You could invite the same two people you just discussed. It wouldn't be the same scenario as if you were having another side meeting. So I'm bringing it up, I think, for discussion. I'm not saying so.
Okay. I resent the implication that somehow or another we're avoiding the public, we're avoiding public oversight, and we are avoiding transparency by having an informal discussion when we've already laid it out in at least 2 meetings about the fact that we want to go to the Budget Recommendations Committee, and B, we are going to go publicly to the Budget Recommendations Committee and say essentially the same things to them. But I don't believe it would be either inappropriate or not useful for us to have some sense about what the initial reaction might be from certain influential members of the Budget Recommendations Committee before we do the public meeting. I mean, you can't tell me that N number of committees and boards don't have informal sessions without quorums, even if it's a discussion between Nico as the board chair and Russ Dean or Melissa as a town manager. I don't think we're doing anything more than staff work. So just...
I respect your opinion. I am bringing it up because I could see in it in a way that how this potentially does not meet the RSA requirements. So I'm just.
Are we allowed to ask the town lawyer whether or not it meets the RSA requirements?
Sure. I think I am happy to pass that along. I think if you would like to send on the behalf of the committee an email to Bob Kelly and ask how he would like it done, you can do that as well. It is your decision or not. So yes, I can reach out. You guys will tell me what you'd like me to do, and I will go in that direction.
Okay.
I can add something.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think sorry. I think it's just a separate point. It's just that we're a super small committee. So if anybody wanted to be involved in the conversation and couldn't, it's very easy to get a quorum. I mean, obviously timing wise, that makes a difference, but number of people wise, it's easy to have a quorum. So do we have more than 2 people who want to be part of that conversation? Because if we have more than 2 people that want to be part of the conversation, it's all null and void anyway. I don't think we're going to say somebody can't come to the conversation. So it's another angle to think about it from.
I think it's a fair point.
Yep.
Well, I'm comfortable in whichever 2 people from our committee talk. If we decide to have an informal discussion, I, for one, would be confident that whoever are the 2 people we would suggest go talk to Bob and to Corey or whoever the subcommittee chair is. I'm not going to worry about whether or not the message gets passed the way we want it to get passed. So I understand what you're saying, Amanda, but just from my personal point of view, I don't think it's necessary to have more than 2 people from our committee meet with them. The other thing is, and this is a reference to what you said, Melissa, sending an email to Bob Kelly is a less effective way, I believe, to make a first outreach to the chair of, I want to say, a co-equal committee. Now, we all know that the Budget Committee has way more purview and way more responsibility than we have here on facilities. But on issues about facilities, we should be considered, personally, in my opinion, we should be considered co-equal to any other town committee, if not have more responsibility than they do. You know,
So I have a.
having an email, let me just finish. Having an email is a bureaucratic way to make an outreach. And I just think it's more effective to make the personal outreach first. Again,
I have a recommendation, Peter, if you want to move this along, is to make a recommendation and have people second it and then move it along that way. I'm only a single person on the committee, and the rest of you could bring it to vote on deciding what we want to do. So there's a process for us to forward. If you want to just make the recommendation, and we can vote on it, and then we can move off of it.
can I make a motion that we ask Melissa to informally consult with the town lawyer about exactly whether, because I mean, again, you know, we may decide or we may find out that the lawyer is uncomfortable with it, and that's a really good data point to reinforce your data point.
Yeah.
And I you know, he may come up with a lot of ideas or not that I haven't thought about, and I'd be the first person to admit to that. So I move we ask for the lawyer just to give us an informal.
I'd second it.
All right, how do we vote on that?
Do we have to vote on it?
To request the lawyer?
I mean,
I don't know.
think it's a good recommendation that we just go for, but yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Amanda, I guess since you're not in person, you're not allowed to vote, unfortunately. I believe that's the ruling at this point. So if we don't include you in the votes, it's just because you're remote and not in person.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I can say, that's another good one.
Can we have Amanda vote and then decide later on whether or not, by being remote, she's not allowed?
I don't know. Melissa's guidance was that she thinks somebody needs to be in person, so that's...
Oh, Melissa's guidance, wait, what did I say? Sorry?
A non-physically present member cannot vote.
I'm finding out right now. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
say that, excuse me.
All right.
I think there was miscommunication. I'm not sure.
Well,
He said yes, roll call for all votes, and then she can vote. That was from the town
okay,
manager.
so you can vote. All right, so the motion was to ask the lawyer if informal meetings violate the RSA.
As
meeting codes.
contemplated, you know, I mean, the specific informal meeting that we're talking about, not all informal meetings.
Right.
I understand, yeah.
So do you vote yay or nay on that, Amanda?
Yeah, I agree that we should do that, yes.
Okay, so I agree. So that motion passes 5-0. All right, so we're still left with an item here. I don't want to wait till the next meeting to kind of move this along. I'm thinking, I don't know, Peter, if you want to call Bob, I like Melissa's suggestion that context a member of the BRC, maybe Bob or another subcommittee leader, just to say, okay, this is what we want to do. What's the best avenue for doing that, and what subcommittee should we be speaking with? Is that something that you would be comfortable reaching out to the BRC to do? Okay.
I'd be happy to do that. I think it's better if you do it, chairman or chairman. But I'll be happy to do it.
Okay, yeah, I can give him a call. I was just gonna, in the essence of time and getting things done in a timely manner, I thought you might be
I'll do it.
a better
I'll do it.
candidate, since I can't even get to the meeting on time here, so. But in my task over the next couple of weeks will be to get with DPW to talk about the FCA. So Peter will reach out to the BRC and start that process. The next item on our timeline is the BRC received CIP and town budget request, and that looks like that's supposed, when does that happen? At the end of this month, or?
Can you just say that, sign it again, I can help you guys.
Oh, I'm sorry, BRC receives the CIP and the town budget request. When does that happen?
I think the next BRC meeting is the 26th.
It's normally
Yeah.
somewhere in the 20s of September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, so relatively
They'll
soon.
start that process, yeah.
So were we thinking we would need to speak with them prior to that, or what?
A, it'll depend on what Bob says.
Yep.
But B, at a minimum, we have to have that presentation with the subcommittee
Yep.
of jurisdiction, whichever that is.
And does that happen after that initial meeting?
Yes,
or-
it would
okay.
be somewhere in October or November, depending on whatever Bob recommends or whatever the subcommittee chairman who might get it would recommend.
Okay,
And because they will have in their October and November, they'll have, most of the subcommittees work in October, and then they have their meetings of each week. They'll have a meeting for a piece of the budget, but from each subcommittee. And then the CIP is normally the second to last or the third from last meeting where they go over the whole CIP. But it would be helpful and useful to have a budget recommendations subcommittee support the FCA. So that's why we need to get them.
okay. Yeah, it looks like we got an item in October. We don't have an exact date for it, but it says FAC sends CIP recommendation and testifies to the BRC. So that happens sometime.
The other thing too is that there are subcommittees, and again, those are public meetings, so anybody can go to a subcommittee meeting and participate in that. So if there is a Public Works subcommittee that anybody wanted to participate in, they can. So, and potentially, if allowed by them, make comment.
Yep, and I did speak, I said this before the meeting started, so excuse me, I have, Dave sent your questions to DPW. I followed up again today, and we have asked that someone from DPW join you for your September 23rd meeting to
Okay.
discuss
Great.
and talk about some of those questions. I just can't confirm who it will be yet because Jen is on vacation, but they are aware of the date and the time.
Some of those questions or all of the questions?
Oh, well, excuse me, the questions, the questions that you sent. So yes, getting me on a technicality.
No, it's not a technicality.
Let me put it this way. They got sent all of the questions. There's an expectation that they should have answers to them for you on the 23rd.
Great.
So if we get the questions answered, is the idea that we write another letter to the BRC to be able to
I would, depending on the answers,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
I mean, our questions were directed towards the departments, right? So
Yeah.
we need to write something else to the BRC with what we, with our support or lack of support. That's right.
And obviously, we can make in the same way we were going to make our answers, the answers we got available to
Right.
the planning board, we can make them available, and we should make them available to the BRC, which then raises the question, are they going to prioritize written answers?
I don't believe so, because we asked them to join you so you could have a conversation and ask follow-up questions.
Just another thing too is it'd actually be good if we actually created maybe a list of, and I can take this as a list of the items that are on the capital request for this year so that we can make sure we hit all the recommendations we're supposed to recommend or not. So I'll create a list of that if that makes sense so we can.
Copy of the CIP, is that what you're asking?
No, I have a copy of the CIP. It's just one of those things where not all the items are something that we really are going to comment on. It's really ultimately is the ones that we need to give formal comments about, and so that we can make sure we're tracking those to say when do we need to have those and what do we need to write.
Does the BRC only focus on the ones for next fiscal year?
No, but
Because when I was watching the DPW presentation to the planning board, she only Jennifer
Right.
talked only about the 22, right, FY 22 projects.
they're most focused on the 22 projects, and they're most focused on the $22. But if there are out-year tails to those projects, or those projects have an out-year implication for some other project, it's kind of up to the individual members of the budget committee to raise those questions
Okay. Because there are,
as they go over.
right. I mean, there's projects on the CIP that are FY '25, '26, right? I mean, it's a 5-year plan, so, okay, or just as far as time, I guess, is, because we haven't reviewed those. We've only focused on the FY '22.
Right, and I think we did that on purpose.
Yeah.
And so I guess I thought, personally, I guess my attitude was, we should focus on all of the ones that have money in FY '22. And if there are others that somehow, I don't know what the word is, if there is an out-year implication to the '22 money, we should decide whether or not we want to make comments about that. But at a minimum, we should focus on those particular projects that have money in FY '22 that we think are the ones of most interest to us. And so at a minimum, it's the geotechnical, it's the DPW, I don't know, Fuel Island Garage, I have no idea. It's Rains Farm, and it's the FCA. And I apologize, because I only took pages out of the CIP. I don't have the full CIP. So maybe something else.
Yeah, I mean, there's just further ones down the road. There's the Parks and Rec building, and there's others, the Public Safety Complex, right? No, it's okay. I mean, I think that makes sense. I just, because we should just be clear that we're only talking about FY '22 projects, so we're not, more for, I guess, for efficiencies.
Oh, and whoever writes the letter.
Yeah, well, even if however we're going to work with the BRC, we just say our focus is on FY '22, and we're reserving comment, I guess, future comment on the other projects. Okay, thanks.
Sounds good. All right. Let's keep moving along then. Next item on the agenda for old business, Public Safety Complex Study. I don't know if there's too much. Melissa, do you know anything?
Yep, so Dave and the chiefs have been working on the information from, and I'm going to say the place, is it La Valley, right?
La Valley, Brensinger,
yep.
yeah.
And they were working on the budget. They originally came back for a scope of work that was closer to the 96,000 mark, and Dave and the chiefs are working with them. They'd like to have more cushions so that if something comes up, there's some money to evaluate an alternative site or something like that. So they're working on the scope. They've got it down to around $80,000, but that has to be reviewed by Dave and going forward, but they are working on that. In fact, that just came in on the 8th. So they're...
It'd be great to see the scope of work.
I would just going to make a recommendation that we are either our next meeting, either we can be provided a copy of that scope, or
Absolutely.
we talk through that at the next meeting.
I just don't want to give it yet because I don't know that Dave has sort of finalized his
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's
feedback.
complete
So
yet.
we do have a draft of it, so I do think it would be available for you guys on the 23rd.
Yep.
But I will confirm that and follow up with Dave.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess I formally would ask that we, as a committee, that we get to see that scope. But anyways,
Yeah,
however that
sounds
works.
like they're
Yeah,
gonna provide
absolutely.
it, so-
Dave is returning soon, and I'll see if he can send that along to you guys,
Right.
okay? My luck, I'll release something I'm not supposed to or something.
Yeah, no, so I understand you want to review it.
And yes,
How are you?
Obviously, like to be able to
Yeah.
see what is being done and what had to be postponed.
yeah, I will say during the interviews, and this was just interview talk, all the firms did commit to the $100,000. They thought that was going to be suitable to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. So when we see the scope, we'll see how closely that aligns with what they said during the interview process.
I can give you, so I'll give you some basic numbers because I think this is sort of, again, this is in draft form and it isn't finalized, but let's see. So the initial, or not the initial, the one that Dave's working on right now is about $52,000 for team leadership, programming, planning, and conceptual design, $4,800 for MEP, and I apologize, my my eyes are terrible. FP Engineering, 4,000 for structural engineering, 4,500 for civil engineering, 7,000 fire department and PD operational review and planning input, 6,500 for conceptual cost budget prep, which is a subtotal of 7,880, and then $1,000 for expense allowance, which would bring it to 79,800. And again, that has not been confirmed by Dave, but that is sort of the
So it's not
quick
really
process.
a task-oriented scope, it's more of a discipline-oriented scope. So-
Yeah, but I mean,
there are other documentations.
Okay, to say
I
what they're
just,
going to
because
do.
he hasn't
Sure.
reviewed it, I just am not sure if it's what he's looking for
Yeah,
yet. So.
that's,
I mean, I hope that there's still in the scope to evaluate more than one site.
There is, yep, so
Or more than one option, not more than
Yep.
one site.
Plus the public.
Plus all the
Right.
public and community input.
right now it says project scope, and I'm going to say one more time, still in draft, but project scope is that it will compare 3 options, engage the public, and select a preferred alternative for the town's public safety services, and then it goes on. But that sentence is in the project scope.
Well, can they stipulate how many times they're going to engage the public?
I have not read this whole thing.
That's
We will go
I'm
back
sure they
and
did.
take a look,
Yeah.
but I don't have it right now.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think
I'm
that,
sure that they've, that's a lot of effort, so I'm sure that they've clarified how many meetings and dates, all these ranges.
Melinda, right after you said MEP, you said F something.
FD, fire
Yeah,
protection.
fire.
Thank you.
Fire protection. Thank you. That's all right, I just.
My glasses
didn't know
aren't
what it
strong
meant.
enough.
Yeah. Okay, so any other comments on that? It's nice not to have such a myopic focus on that project right now, since I feel like we spent all summer talking about it. All right, on to the next item. We already covered this a little bit, the CIP Planning Board meeting review. Mark, you already covered that. And then the next item is Facility Conditions Assessment, CIP. The one thing I would say about this is it sounds like we have to sharpen up our sales pitch on this. So I think we need to give some thought, maybe at the next meeting, to have some sort of dry run for a 5 or 10 minute presentation by 1 or 2 of the board members who will be tasked with getting this thing through the process. So
Presented to who?
how about us, the other members on the staff that aren't on the presenting team? It wouldn't be
No,
all
I understand
5 of
that,
us.
but what I'm saying is, who's the targeted audience? The BRC or?
Well, it will be, at first will be the BRC, it will be the
Select
select
board.
board at some point as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, I just want to make sure that I
And I
understand.
think we're pretty woefully prepared at this point, and,
But it's the elevator speech bulletized, right?
well, I think it's
With
also
with
to be-
more, I mean, more stuff in it,
Yeah, I
but
think a presentation that goes through and explains why and then gives us some examples of what the evaluation does and what the tool does and how it works on a yearly and, biannual and, work in perpetuity to be able to help track things. But I think showing some product at the end of it so that they understand what the value is of it.
yeah, and it needs to be a little aspirational, not just straight data like we usually present. So, do we have any volunteers or anyone who is willing to take that on? And since Amanda's not here, we can assign her to do it. I mean, it could be 1 or 2 members.
I can hear you.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to take the next meeting and talk through what
I can start something, and I think if we can, I think one of the things we would talk about was that if Colliers had some examples of things that they had done, is if we could pull those examples, we could begin to just show people ultimately what the output is and talk to them about why that's such a valuable thing from a capital planning standpoint and from a, just continuity of service, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where it would have been really good to be able to have proposals from firms to know what we're dealing with. I mean, Colliers would be interested in it, but
Yeah, it's a chicken or an egg scenario,
Yeah.
you're right. Like, to get the money, we have to do the sales pitch, but it would be nice to already have a firm engaged to give us some.
yeah, I mean, I think we could talk the sales pitch like we have been. I think it's more about when we're trying to show deliverables. I mean, we don't know what this is going to get us, and we don't know what the town I mean, this is an iterative process that when you start to interview any of these firms each firm's going to come with a different package, and I don't know. I mean, we can talk through it and see. I mean, I would keep it at a high level and maybe we talk about options that the town will have.
Yeah, I mean,
There's just a huge amount of different options.
there are, but let's look at it through the lens of what's the BRC and the select board going to want to know? They're going to need something tangible to grab onto and,
How is it useful to me?
Yeah.
Meaning the select board or the BRC?
Yeah, that's why I agree. I mean, I think that we can do that by keeping it at a high level and just and focus on, what is the reason, the action, what is the deliverables of this, what value does it add to the town, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to do this
And
way.
tie it back to systems that they already have. They have a system right now that is for the wastewater treatment plant that does exactly what we're talking about. It is a database which tracks the facilities that are over there, and it has a renewal program that's associated with it that includes pumps and all the other stuff. So this isn't something that they don't already have as a tool that they use for a very big building, series of buildings.
Do we know how much it costs them to set this tool up?
50 million.
Yeah, that was the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry I asked.
50 million for the software. They
What
got
would,
planned.
yeah, exactly, software, hardware. It's only a matter of hardware and software integration. No problem.
I think it obviously came as a package with
the equipment.
the entire project, so.
Is it, okay, so it's not worth trying to ask them what that subset?
Well, we have estimates from somebody who's done, very similar ones to
okay.
this, so.
Do we know what company that is, what system that is?
I don't, we could ask, it would give me another question to ask Jennifer.
I mean, we can look that up and see if it's something that is outside of a wastewater plant. I mean, can that be applied or expanded to other facilities? I mean, it probably can,
Probably can.
right?
If it's,
I can talk, when I talk to Jen, I can talk to
we can get
her.
a name and we can research it ourselves.
Yeah. So I'll learn more about that prior to the next meeting. That's my action item.
Okay.
For top-level messages, though, is it worth bulletizing part of the write-up in the CIP page, just to reinforce that as part of the pitch?
Potentially. I just think we need to be clear, we need to be concise, and we need to be able to explain how it works and the benefits in language that people can understand, because it's a pretty confusing system to the non-industry person.
Another thing I would example would be is that most people now probably use some sort of software to do their budgeting on a yearly basis or on a monthly basis. It's, some of these are very similar to how you track things and how you get data and actually have live information versus someone gives you a PDF of a document that actually is not live. It's not data that you can use. And so these are the things, I think those are the things, just to tie it back to what people do on a daily basis.
That's a pretty effective analogy, Rob, and if you also explained it further, like how about if you had an expert come in and actually evaluate all your past spending so that your budget numbers are really accurate versus what you want them to be. Something like that I think is crucial to this, and we and it needs to be a pretty polished 5-10 minute presentation, and visuals always help. So
Do you want to do all the technical stuff, and I can just take the boilerplate and the FCA and write up and just bulletize
make it compelling too, not dry, but make it
And then we can put them
compelling.
together? Okay,
Are we thinking
Lots of
actual
cheering.
presentation, or are we just going to have a discussion?
I can't imagine we're going to actually, any of us are going to get a presentation put together in the next 2 weeks, so, I mean, we can
Well, we're not
discuss
talking
it.
2 weeks to have it do, I mean, we're talking about
Not-
the VRC, so.
Right, I'm saying in 2 weeks, like, if we were to do a dry run just at our next meeting,
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen, I don't.
No, well, I guess I guess I'm thinking long-term with the VRC than the select board.
Which is actually pretty close on the heels of the next meeting, if you think about it, within a
guess,
month
yeah.
of that next meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can
okay.
just put together a point paper for next meeting, how's that? That has the outlines of
It's
the...
an outline. So it's basically, it's like you said, it's, graphic, something explains how it's tied to what people do on an average, daily basis. So I
So
think
you-
that's,
So you do the technical...
I'm happy to help with the visual aspect. That's easy for me, so.
Okay.
if somebody does the technical aspect
That
and
would be
I
great.
can put it together nicely.
Yeah, Mark and Rob probably have the most experience with these systems, so yeah, maybe you can work with one of them to figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, Rob's already started talking points, and
Yeah.
And then
I think
I'll
it's just, that's why I was asking, like, what the format, if we're actually going to do slides or something. If we're just going to be, so we're on the same page with talking points, and we pick who's,
Yeah, you could have maybe 3 to 5 slides that could either be presented digitally or as a handout, I guess.
I mean, it's not important for today, I was just wondering,
Yeah,
what
I think having something to leave behind is good.
yeah.
Yep.
although for our purposes, next meeting, we just need to have a point paper straw man, if you will.
Yeah,
So I'll do the boilerplate stuff, and you do the,
okay. Sounds good. Any other comments on that?
Chris, I
Oh,
just
yes.
wanted to follow up on the public safety and the scope. It says there would be 2 public forums included in the scope of the services. LaValle Architects will provide support with community outreach, including attendance at public presentations, communication materials, and public outreach strategies.
Okay. So I guess I would want to make sure that the first public meeting would be to evaluate the 3 options, and then the final public meeting to go over the preferred option, I guess.
is that enough?
That's what I'd like to
For-
see.
Is that
You know,
enough?
formally and realistically, it's not bad. 3 would be better. I'm not sure what the third one would cover, but, I mean, I guess the third one could be the initial one. It could just be a kickoff charrette, just to not even necessarily get full bore into where the building's going to go and what it'll look like,
I
but,
would agree with that. I actually think the first one would be purely to go through and prior to them doing any work, is to get community input to, one is maybe they give an assessment of what they're looking at from an operational standpoint, and from just a conceptually what community policing, community fire means to the community, and then the community says back what they see for the level of service that they're expecting, so that's included in their work as far as trying to meet the community needs.
And I don't know how this fits in, but I do think it's really important that the need is demonstrated. I mean, we've walked the building, we understand the situation, right? Majority of the community is not going to understand that or see that or have that opportunity. So somehow, I don't know how to do it other than, having the consultant be able to really show, through,
pictures and,
the need has to be really communicated well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people are just going to see that it's another building or something that's a lot of money, and just say the current situation's fine.
I think to me, that's trying to get as many people to tour it.
So maybe it is a tour. Maybe it's having an open house.
I'm telling you right now, what's more effective than the first time I walked through that building, 10 plus years ago, and I said, what? And that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
is that
I wasn't in
something
the
that?
jail, but it was.
Yeah,
That was
Is that-
before you got into the jail, before
Right.
you were arrested in the jail.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but it to me, it's a sobering thing to see, and also have people recognize that this is the largest asset that the town budget goes towards every single year, is police and fire.
Right.
yeah.
So maybe there's a role for us on this.
Is that something that the architect needs to lead, or can the town?
I think you could have a community
Yeah.
led.
Yeah, but I think it's. I
They
don't
should
know.
be there.
Well, but I think it's also. This.
I think they could be there, but I think the town could set something like that up.
But I
That
don't
could
think
be
it
outside of
the-
their two formal meetings that they're committed to.
Yeah, but I don't think it can be the police chief and the fire chief telling this. I think it has to be someone else that is telling.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking like Dave
So,
or
the
somebody
formality
like
of
that.
this, I don't think it can be the, Russ Dean. I think maybe this is maybe a group like us that can just say, try to help that, almost an independent entity that can come in and just, and explain this, and whether it's a video or something. I have no idea. I'm just thinking, I'm
Yeah,
thinking
all right.
out loud, but that's, the fire chief and the police chief coming in and saying, oh, we need better building, we need better this. It's just people are going to say you just want more, but if it's somebody else,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Okay.
Is the contractor who did the Institute for whatever, in DC,
Yeah.
the consultant that did the Public Safety Center's operational study and deployment analysis, are they on the hook for anything else?
I don't know, but I can find out.
If they're in the area, yeah, they could.
Yeah, I think an open house community tour, I mean,
Yeah.
that there's things
I
like
think
that.
that's a good idea.
The consultant that they have, that La Valley has on there for their public safety consultant, is somebody who could definitely help with putting together the outline for something like this, because they're somebody who does this stuff on a national basis, and so I think soliciting some response or some activity from them to say, hey, look, this is what we'd like to do. What kind of background information can you give us, and can you steer the group in a direction that helps reinforce what is the standard of care when it comes to the design and development of a public safety complex?
Yeah, I mean, even if I know that there's a committee, right? We met with one of the members of the committee on police.
There's a police.
Stakeholders committee.
Stakeholders.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just for police though, right? It's not for fire.
And
but
it's more of a community relations rather than a
Right.
facilities
Right.
per se.
But maybe, so again, I'm thinking out loud, but what if there's several of these committees were able to speak a little bit about that they, if they agree with the need, and where, like, Chris, you spoke on sustainability, right? You had a 10-second little couple sentences. I mean, I'm just, could there be something like this?
Like a video or something?
A public
Yeah.
service announcement where
Yeah.
you have several people that are separate from, they're not town employees, but are supporting this initiative, and can speak out and say, hey, we know that this is going to be expensive, but we feel like this is a justified project.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That almost, I think that's a good idea, Mark. It kind of smacks to me a little bit of advertising versus, I like the idea of the open house more so, just to get people boots on the ground to actually see the conditions and to get a little more, I think it'll be a little more personal.
That's good. I guess I'm just thinking how many people are going to take the time to go down versus if they saw,
it's true.
A 2-minute video on Facebook.
Yeah.
And just that they, and maybe that's a virtual tour. Maybe it's a tour through the building, and somebody other than maybe it's a consultant, or maybe it's a high-paid actor that can go through and just go. I don't know. I mean, you just think of you want to reach as many people as you can.
Yeah.
And who is going to take that time to actually walk?
There's that. That's an excellent point, and I do like Rob's point too. Though, is just getting community input on what do you think, what do you think of policing and fire now? What are your expectations for it?
And they're not mutually exclusive. We can do both.
Yeah, exactly.
Bob Glowacki,
Yes,
are you there?
give him a
I
second.
can hear him, I can hear you too.
Where is it?
Sounds like he's talking to God.
Anyway, I think we have a discussion with Exeter TV.
There's
Hey, Bob.
Yeah, we can talk about what we can and can't do in terms of like campaigning sort of things. There's certain rules for that, like
PSAs.
public access, but we can definitely get information out and.
I mean, if you're just documenting, doing a tour of the building or something.
Yeah, I mean, we've done in the past like warrant article videos where it's not like say yes, but it's like here's all the facts about the thing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Definitely do it.
Okay, great.
I think you guys are, in my opinion, talking about
Thank
two
you,
different
Bob.
things. You're talking about sort of having people understand the current state of the public safety facility, and then in another sense, you're talking about educating them about the project. It almost seems like those would be two different things at two different times.
Two things that might happen at the same time, though, if there were a site tour and a charrette discussion afterwards.
Yeah, but I guess my thought was that the first part would lead the second part.
That's what I
mean, I think in order for people to really want to get involved and be part of the solution, they're going to want to know what's the need, right? I mean, otherwise they're just going to ignore it and say that they're not going to support it.
So Bob or his people have to go tour the fire department and the police department the way we did. And
To whichever parts they want to show, there might be some areas that they don't.
well, yeah, I mean, there may be some issues, of security.
Access, yeah.
Right, that might be an issue.
But I mean, but that's, the fire, Chief Wilking and Chief Poulin can, we couldn't do this without them. So, whatever they agree to, if it can tell the story, is what I think, what you want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just got to try to get as many people involved in this to be able to understand. So they're not just showing up in March and seeing
Right.
I know we have a year from this, but a multi-million-dollar warrant article that.
Yeah, it's going to be here in a minute too.
All right, no, those are all good points, and I think we don't have to decide anything on that now, but it's all good. I guess the crux of it is maybe like an initial meeting somehow, and it may or may not involve the consultant. So we only have about 5 minutes left. The next item on the agenda is, thanks for that little segue, Melissa. You really threw us off the agenda there.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Appreciate it. Thank you. Rains Farm was an item on there, and I did finally send our letter of recommendation. I finally got around to doing that.
Nico answered you.
Recently, Nico got back to us, and I did talk to, oh gosh, I forget her name now. Maureen, is it Maureen in the town conservation?
Kristen?
No, Kristen Murphy.
Yeah.
Kristen Murphy, that's who it was. That's what I was thinking, Maureen. But I think she had said that the L-chip people were coming to tour the property sometime soon. So I think they're still working their way through the grant process, and hopefully they're able to secure that. Next item, DPW. So the last 4 or 5 things I have, I've got the DPW project list, the library, ADA study, committee interactions, and alternate members. I guess what I'll do in the last couple of minutes is just open it up. If anybody has any comments or thoughts on any of those items, feel free to share them now.
I have a thought.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yes. Yep, go ahead, Amanda. The rest of the meeting is yours.
I'll make it quick, but just, Melissa, do you mind following up with Dave, because he's not here, and just seeing where we might stand on getting into that DAC track system for seeing the specifics on the ADA study? Because that also plays into our FCA conversation as well, so I think we'd be more prepared if we could really see what was in there, because it's kind of a bulleted list or whatever of items that need to be done, so it's kind of getting timely.
Absolutely.
That's it.
I don't know.
Make a motion that we adjourn?
Oh, yeah,
Sorry. Amanda,
Yeah.
I'll put in the bulletized boilerplate, just a bullet that says ADA. Can you just send me an email that kind of explains the connection between the FCA and the ADA?
Well, I don't know yet because I've never seen it, so it's sort of it's an out there.
Well, I think the connection would be is that part of what we're trying to do is capture disparate studies which have implications to our overall budget and trying to track them in a single location.
Perfect, Rob.
Yeah, that could.
Nailed it.
Like ADA upgrades could be a renewal item for a building that
Yep.
Yeah.
needs it. So.
And it also could be something why you sit there and say you might invest in something else because it would actually take care of maybe 3 issues versus just taking care of 1.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Nailed it.
And I'll put that together.
That's it for the day. I'm going home.
Make the motion.
Well, before he does that, let me just. Now, Amanda, do you have anything else, or I just want to make sure she gets her points across?
No, that was
You're all
it.
set? Okay, all right, go ahead, Rob.
He already
Again.
seconded it.
Oh, you seconded it, okay.
Yes.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Sorry.
Aye.
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 Aye, okay. The ayes have it, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.